Hi there. Welcome to Painting with Shawna on Thursdays. Let's just get painting. I'm really looking forward to painting this Ruby Crown Kinglet. They are so fun. In the spring when they arrive, I have an app and I can call them to me, and I only do it one time so I can get some pictures. But here we go. We're going to start on the belly. You know, I start different ways. I'm just trying to figure out what the value is, and I'm putting little bits of paint on to see if it's close as I look back and forth. I'm really thinking about the underneath, and I do see that there is this sort of hint of a yellowy green, which I have mixed, but I won't be using until right at the end. Yeah, you can see that hint of yellowy green. And I have to use a transparent paint. This really is important when you go to glaze, is using a transparent paint is easier when you're glazing. And so that made me have to choose a different color, which I will talk about next week when I go to do that glazing and why I chose the paint color that I chose. So I'm just going to continue working. When they come up in the spring, their song is quite distinctive, and they are super territorial, as I mentioned. So they're lots of fun to see, and they come when I do my little app call, which I don't only do once. It will come with its ruby crown all puffed up and gorgeous. I don't always get a picture of it because you have to move pretty fast. They're pretty quick little birds. So as I'm working on this, again, I'm just setting the tone, I'm setting the values. I may not be 100% correct, but the next pass will be. If you are on Facebook, give my page a like or a follow. If you are on YouTube, please consider subscribing to my page. Now I'm bringing out my palette that I've set up and I'm working with. Oops, get it in place. And it's a 10YR, which means it's a yellow red that's more towards the yellow. It's closer to the yellow. 10YR, what did I use? I think I used yellow ochre to create these different values. And these are Chroma 1, and they're just on the edge of being gray. And it's amazing how often birds end up right there. And then the crown, you can see the various values that I've done to create the crown. Oops, and it just fell on me. So I'll clean my sleeve, and I have some of the blue background that's matching, and the Munsell gray is at the bottom. I'm trying to clean up my arm as I've got paint on my arm. Now let's keep moving on the bird here. I'm playing with these values. I'm using the same brush, my very favorite, the Princeton Dakota, I think it's 6500, and I'm just looking back and forth. You can see that I've got that value as close as correct. And now we're going to come up to create those little touches of light and put those in place so that I can come back and I have them in place before I put the wing shape on. We went off on holidays. We had a little bit of break with our son and daughter-in-law and grandson in Alberta. We came back. It was just a great 6-day break. It was nice to get out of Yellowknife. So I continue just to build up shapes and the values, and again, as we're setting the stage, it's not about being 100% perfect for me. For other people it is, but for me it's not. We just want to get close so that there's something to compare to. So we're working away at this, taking our time. I move slowly. I'm not a very fast painter, but then if you've been following for a while, you know that. I realize that when I'm working with these paintings and these little images, I really am enjoying the fact that there's this broad space in behind that I'm going to have fun with different triangle shapes from the other two. Each one has been successful. We're going to work on the bill here. And the bill is slightly open. I will fix that just as I finish up my painting later on. I'll put a little touch of background into it. And they have such a little wee bill. It's good enough to get insects. Anyway, I'm looking forward to spring arriving here. We've had some decent weather this week, so it's not been too bad. April is always hit and miss. It's not my favorite month. It's kind of dusty and dirty and icy and warm, but not warm, and then gets really cold again. And I can see that I'm going to start to put on the crown. And I realized that I'm getting ahead of myself. I needed to build the background up and then put those ruby crowned feathers that stand up on end and are so cool over top of the final head. Oh, let's go over. We're going to work on to the tail. There's a whole bunch of feathers overlapped on this tail. I'm not going to stay too focused on it. No, I realize my brush is too small. I need to get a bigger brush to do this. The first pass is better with a big brush. The little brushes are really for all that detail work when you're getting to that point. Stepping back, looking at it. I spend a lot of time going back and forth to see if I've got the value correct, to see if I've got the shape correct. I'm not really super worried about this at this point because I'm going to come in and do the second pass where I will make those corrections on here. I just want to get the shape in place right now. So I was saying we were down south and turns out we missed the arrival of birds by just a short period of time down in Alberta. We did see geese 100 kilometers north of Peace River, and that was the first of the birds that we've seen, and that was really exciting. Spring is always fun to see what comes back. Now, last spring was so bitterly cold. We didn't have as many birds come up. They just stayed south of Great Slave Lake in the southern part of the NWT and in northern Alberta because it was warmer there than it was here. And they have such a finite period of time to create their little ones and move on. So we're getting that feather shape in there, and now we're going to start to work on the shoulder. I'm working away here. My goal is to be down in southern Alberta at some point when the snow geese are coming through because they come in such big amounts, and they just fly over Yellowknife. We may see a little bit of them, but they're not as noticeable as down there. So that's one of my bucket list things to do, is to be in southern Alberta that first week of April as everything is arriving, and be there to photograph them. So I'm building up the shoulder. I've stood back and I realized that there's this lighter area and I don't have it quite light enough yet. I keep going back and forth because distance helps when you're looking at what you're painting. And I'm putting that lightness in, looking back to see if I've got that shoulder shape correct enough. And I'm pretty happy with how that's turning out. Let's work on the eye. Now this is a value 2, and that's the darkest place on my bird, this value 2. I'm just placing it and getting the shape of it as close as I can, and then I will put a little bit around, and you can see I'm working with a small brush because at this point, to be able to manage that amount of paint in that little space, a smaller brush works better. I try to keep to the big brush all the way through as much as I can, but there are places that a smaller brush works better. Onto the background. And I'm using an angle brush here, a dagger brush. It covers really quickly. It's got a lovely angle to it, and I can get thin lines with it. It's one of the Rosemary and Company Ivory series, and I really like their daggers. I use them not as often as I probably should. To get in closer and to manage it, I've just went back to my trusty Dakota Princeton brush as I bring it close. And I'm going to be paying attention to ridges, because when you're putting on the background, you can easily get ridges that will actually capture the light and cast shadows. Even if they're really small, they can still do that. So I really do pay attention to that detail. You know what? This series has been really fun, and I'm looking forward to hanging them up in my bathroom. I will process them all at the same time and do the isolation coat and the varnish coat over top to protect them. And then I will be happy to hang them and update my paintings in my bathroom that have been there since 2013. So my painting skills have improved a great deal in that time frame. So I'm going to come in just sort of carefully around those lovely red ruby crown feathers, getting rid of the ridges. So the birds that will be arriving here shortly are snow buntings. They should be here pretty darn quick if they're not already here. The eagles are already here, which amazes me. The birds that go away are the ptarmigan. They're going to be gone pretty soon, and so are actually and the gulls will be back. The ravens will be on their nest here pretty soon, and that will change things. I was feeding them the other day. I had some egg yolks and I freeze them and I put them out, and they had a heyday with that, and some leftover chicken that it was time to put out for the ravens. Don't often have that happen, but it does happen once in a while. This low chroma blue is almost gray. It is so close to gray, and I'm sure that it's a chroma 2, not a chroma 1, which is even more gray. But it's just a perfect sky color. I'm really pleased with it. Now I'm going to be hearing my husband come down the stairs, and he's going to knock on the door. And he's going to tell me that my sound is not on. Anyway, I put a new sticker over top of where the computer is to remind me to at least turn the sound on in that area, so that I stop doing this silly thing. One time it was a technical problem. This time it was a Shawna technical problem. And I build that up, the little bit of sky that you can see between the leg and the... Oh, here we go. Okay. Ian just came downstairs and knocked to tell me that I had no sound. So, well... Okay, 2 weeks away, and there we are. Hi, Shawna here. We're starting a little late. I will have to do the editing again to do the voiceover, so that we'll figure this out. Anyway, welcome, and we're just painting on this little one. Okay, change the camera. Okay. I checked to see the mic was on. I forgot to check to see the mic was on down on the... Yeah. Oh, someday. I'm glad that most of the time I don't do that, but yes, thankfully, somebody's in the house paying attention. So I showed you my palette, and then there was no sound, so I'm just going to bring it up here again. So annoying. I'm just going to finish the background here first. So the background is a cerulean blue paint that I have brought down to a low chroma. So this is value 9 with a chroma of 2, which is just on the edge of just on the edge of gray. Then chroma 1 is what all this bird is chroma 1, and the next chroma is 0, which is gray. And it always surprises me. So as I was saying earlier, if you're on Facebook, say hello. If you are on YouTube, say hello, and I will come back later and reply to you. If you have any questions about what I'm doing, other than when the sound was off, and you could have a question of why you couldn't hear it, just leave a comment below, and I will be happy to answer any questions. Okay, so I went over on the bird, and I know when I bring my clean brush that the paint is not quite dry, so I'm going to bring in a little bit of that value 4 and just darken it up and settle it down. Okay, so the background is done for the first pass. It takes a couple of passes to get the background to where I want it to be. So I was saying earlier that I sent out my newsletter. I'm thinking of doing a newsletter, sort of a behind the scenes. Last night I had some friends over, and they came downstairs to see what my studio looked like, and they were surprised, mostly at how little it is, and how I could get all of this fit in. And anyway, so that was, yeah. So I think that's one of my newsletters coming up, will be that information and that what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So I'm not worried about perfection in the first pass. I'm just trying to get some information down and see if I'm happy with it. Ooh, that seems a little dark, doesn't it? Well, maybe it's not actually once you get into it. Okay, we'll bring that down and around here and bring some of that light. I'm not sure that this color is correct. It's sort of the Munsell gray colors, but I'll play with that this week and figure that out. I am teaching starting tomorrow at one of the local schools. I'm teaching grade 7 students, and I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fun. And I'm going to teach them the beginning of drawing. So tomorrow is Zentangles and sort of getting their hands used to holding pencils, because they work on computers far more than they work holding pencils and pens. So I've got a 8-week period that I'm teaching on Fridays. So that's exciting. I'm really pleased about that. I haven't been in a school for a long time, and I haven't taught for a long time because of COVID. I do plan to wear my mask because it's still running around doing its thing, that COVID, and I'm not interested in getting sick. So I'm hoping that that will be enough to sort of protect me. Okay, that branch. It's interesting how I could get a picture, and this picture is just the way it is. I might have done some editing. I might have gotten rid of the background, actually, because I really want that gold patterning on there, and I don't want the distraction of having too many other things happening in there. I edited it a while ago, so I forgot about that. I said earlier while I was painting, if you stay to the end, I will be sharing with you my color study for the fox painting. And I will be getting the background done over the next, well, it'll probably be Tuesday or Wednesday before I get the background completely finished. Because it's a big painting and it's layers, so it has to, it takes the time it takes, and I want to be careful while I'm making the background so that it's nice and smooth and doing what I want it to do. So hopefully by next week I might have it even up here and started, but we'll see what my week is like. The birds are coming back, the eagles are back, and I haven't seen them yet. I haven't gone out to see them. We're going owl hunting tomorrow because it's time to go owl hunting. So I'm going to put the crown in now, and I'm just looking at the shapes and kind of mimicking them, knowing that I will correct them tomorrow, or, well, when I paint next, fully. But I'm just getting them in place. Huh. Sometimes they get their crown right up and it stands right up, and it's totally fun to see. I'm just going to clean that up a little bit and slender that one down and clean that one up. Anyway, we're going owl hunting tomorrow. A friend and I are, so I'm excited about that. On the way back from Alberta, when we were driving back, we did see an owl on the way back, and it was a northern hawk owl, and I got some pretty decent pictures of it. So I'm quite pleased with that. Let's get that a little bit lighter yet. I can see that it's just a little lighter yet. And the light was pretty pretty clear and pretty good, so I was able to, I think it's a picture that has a, good lighting on it. The last time I got a northern hawk owl, I didn't get very good lighting on it. And so the colors were dull and okay. Now I'm probably too big of a brush for that. You just have to pay attention when you get to these little places and make sure you get a brush that's little and you can build it up and move it around a bit. Okay, interesting. Definitely not the right colors. Okay, so we're just going to put the legs in place, and I can see they've got more reddy brown in them than I'm going to put in right now. I'm just going to get them just the general shape, and again move off of the little tiny brush and put that away and move to a slightly bigger brush so that I can get the shapes of the claws in. Oh, I see what that is. It's funny when I'm drawing it out, I'm like, what is that? Now I'm paying attention at a different level and I'm seeing what that is. I'm getting paint on me. It's a claw and the other side of the toes hold on. And a little bit of water there. And we're just going to come in here and do that. I will define those more as we go on. So interesting to see how they position themselves on a branch, because it doesn't seem like it's possible that they would have a leg that far forward. But what I'm seeing here, I think what I'm seeing here is where it's hinged, and then, oh yeah, okay, that's what I'm seeing. So let's capture that information. So what I'm seeing here is that it's hinged here, and there's a little shape here that I kind of missed when I was painting the body. There, that makes more sense. Sometimes things don't make sense and you're just like, something's wrong here. How is that possible? How's that physically possible? I come across here, and we've got an area here, and I'm just putting in the sort of a dark shape, and then I will come back and put the colors I'm seeing in the lighter shapes. Okay, that in place. Okay, I see there's another shape over here. Okay, no, actually I've got that shape included in there. And then there's a shape over here that's darker, and it's even darker than the branch. So I want to make sure that it's, well, no, actually it's about the same value as the branch. So we're going to get that shape, and then we're going to get, I'm going to clean my brush off so I don't have very much paint on it. In fact, I'm going to go back to that smaller brush that's got a finer point. Okay, so here, and we've got that little claw there, and there's another one meeting it here. Interesting. And then there's sky that I missed. So let's get some of that sky in there. And because it's a small area, I'm going to use my small brush so I can manage it better. Spritz everything. And I see there's a little bit of sky here. And, oh yeah, I'm getting sky on my, and then I'm seeing it a little bit of sky right there. And then right in here. So like the other of the series, this is number 3 of the Sparkle series. I plan to do a different triangle on the background. I'm just playing with these. I'm not worried about them being, I'm just playing. The whole thing is just a game, you know, having just sort of experimenting and playing. Okay, what do we think? I think the first pass is pretty much done. Okay, I need to grab something to drink here. Okay, I think we're going to focus in on the bird and on the head of the bird this time. We have 20 minutes or so, a little bit more than 20 minutes. So that means, let's see what we have for brushes here. Let's pull them forward so I can see them. Just trying to think about where I want to go. The last thing I'm going to do is these crown things. They're the last place I'm going to go. But I think I'll start with the eyes and work my way out. So I did make time to do the color study this week for the foxes. For the fox, it's a single fox. So I'm pleased with how it turned out. This is the second color study I've done for it. I wasn't pleased with the first one, so I just waited until I had some more time, and then I came in and did a whole nother study. The study doesn't take that long to do. Maybe it was an hour that I worked on it, but it gives me a lot of information. These little paintings that I'm doing here, I don't do color studies for. I'm just playing with them. They're hanging in my bathroom, so I'm not going to worry about them too much. Oh, I've got paint all over me today. Look at my hands. Yes. Okay. Well, okay. So let's get... I'm just trying to find the brush that's going to be the right brush for the job. So I'm going to bring a little bit of this value close to the... Oh, no, it needs to be darker yet. So the eyeball is value 2, which then means I have to compare against value 2, so I can go a little bit darker. Maybe it's a value 3.5. It's not actually a value 3. So let's see if that is a better choice. Yeah. So it's the subtlety that I'm trying to create, and when I'm working on here. I'm going to bring in, where's my white-handled brush? White-handled brush, where are you? There you are. I'm going to bring you in. It's the first time I've brought it in to sort of bounce the paint around and get it into place. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. Clean the brush, stand back. I spend a lot of time when I'm painting standing back and looking at both the image and the painting, so that I can make sure that I'm not going too far afield and not getting ahead of myself too much. I make better decisions when I stand back and I can look at things. So I'm just going to bounce in that value, and then I'm going to come in with a slightly lighter value and bounce it next to it here. Then I'm going to bring in that white-handled brush, and I'm just going to soften it in. So this white-handled brush Oh, it's taking too much paint. The paint's too wet. Just 1 second here. I've been spritzing it a little, probably a little bit too much. I've got water pooling in other areas that are not helpful. Okay. Okay, so value 4. Bring that in. Bring that around. And value sort of 4.5 next to it so that it just shifts a little bit. And then bring in the white handle brush, making sure that it's as dry as it possibly can be. So it's not going to pull up too much paint, and if it does pull up paint, because it's still really wet, I'm not going to worry about it. It'll dry and then I'll come back and do it again. What's interesting is here is a shoulder. You can see the shoulder, and I've kind of lost that shoulder. So let's put some of that shoulder in so that it looks, I'm going to come in and just bounce it out. And it looks like it actually needs to be the value 7. I was at the value 6. So let's just grab some paint, and then I'm going to just sort of move it around, spread it around. Lighten it a little bit more and spread it around and bring it down into here. Slowly but surely. There we go. Now we're getting there. Interesting. There's enough light that I'm noticing underneath the bill that it's a little darker because the bill is casting a bit of a shadow. So I'm going to try that value 4 because the bill is darker than the value, so I don't want to go. And then I'm going to go up to value 5, and I'm just going to blend these two together by just touching it with this brush. Now I've bought more of these brushes, the Simply Simmons Brights, when I was down getting art supplies when we were traveling. Okay, nice. Interesting little shape here that's a little dark. So let's do that. We'll just bounce that out a little bit so it's there, but it's not. Okay. Okay, teeny tiny brush. Oh, here's a pretty little teeny tiny brush. A 20-0. That's tiny. Look at how small that brush is. I just want to get the eye in place and now I don't want the eye to look flat, and right now that value 2 just looks like it's a blob of value 2. So I'm going to bring in value 3, just a little bit of the value 2 into the value 3 and create a sense of the roundness of the eyeball. And this little tiny brush is like, whoa. Okay. My glasses up so I can see. Sometimes you wish you had a little wee. Okay. I'm just standing back by the camera so I can see what you're seeing. Okay, let's get a slightly bigger brush. Clean that brush off. Don't want paint drying on that. And I need a little bit of paint there on the chin. I see that I've missed that shape. That goes, and it's lighter than that here. just going to bring a little bit of lightness in. Now, if I get the shape wrong, the joyful part about this painting process, I can correct it with the background when I do the background, but I also can come in and just quietly correct it here and now, and then see if I'm happy with it by stepping back, making sure that it's back far enough and it's doing what I want it to do. I was saying earlier, and I don't know if it was before or after, we're going owl hunting tomorrow. The great gray owls will be out. And we're waiting for see if the short-eared owls will come back, because last year there were short-eared owls, and it was totally fun to watch. They fly like a, oh, my friend Leslie can tell you what they fly like, but they don't fly like an owl. And so it's kind of, you're kind of tricked into thinking they're not an owl, and yet they're totally an owl. I got some fairly decent pictures of it last year. We'll see if we get anything. And the mountain bluebirds. So I have to go and see when I took pictures of mountain bluebirds last year, because the last 2 years, Leslie and I have seen the mountain bluebirds in the exact same place. So that has been kind of interesting. So are we going to see it in the same place for the third year? Okay, now we're building in some dimension and some depth of value here. What's interesting here is this is the darkest part, this is lighter, and this is lighter. So I need to make sure I'm paying attention to where that core shadow is, that area that's the darkest. Let's take that and put that back right now. And make sure that I capture that, because that's what will give it dimension. Okay, and then we go lighter on each side of it. I was saying earlier that there is this hint of a yellowy green, and I'm going to glaze that color over top. And I used a different color than I normally do for mixing that color because I was looking for transparency. I wanted a paint that was transparent so that it will glaze over top and not become opaque. So you know, you make decisions about what paint you need to use, sometimes by what you're going to do with it. So if you're going to glaze, it's much easier to work with a paint that is transparent than like white that's opaque. It's very hard to glaze with an opaque paint. So it's something to consider when you're choosing your colors that you want to work from. I need to lighten that up a little bit more. And I have a video on that, on transparency and opacity of paint, on YouTube. I've got 10 videos up for my Acrylic 1 painting class, Painting 101 class that I was teaching in Yellowknife, but with COVID everything is, you know, it is what it is. So I, oh, look at that. Now we're getting the shapes here. So I'm doing that, and I'm finding it really stretching me because I have to explain things in a video that's going to be there forever, and I'm not physically with people to make those explanations. So that's kind of, it's an interesting experience. Okay, so does that look like that's a little too dark? Probably. So let's bring in a value 5 because I just put a value 4 down, and we'll put that 5 around it, and we'll just sort of soften it out to make it feel like it's more. Okay. Okay. And a little bit of darkness here. There's a little bit more. Okay. Let's clean this edge up here because I've definitely got it too far. I'm going to stand back so I can make sure that what I'm doing is making sense. Sometimes you can get so focused in on painting that you forget to stop and look. And that is a big thing you need to do, is stop and look. What are you actually doing? You get sort of zoned in and you forget what you're actually doing. And I'm just going to darken that up here. And here. So this is this week's painting and next week's painting. And after that, well, I will put out a call. I thought I'd do something different. Maybe paint some glass or paint a dragonfly. Maybe it's going to be about transparency and how you get that look of transparency when you're painting an object with paint. I was a quilter for a long time, and my last art quilt that I made, I did, you can find it on my website. I had fun, and I did plastic bags. It looks like plastic bags. It's all fabric, so it's not plastic bag, but it looks like plastic bags of chocolate chips. And the chocolate chips are inked on, like I've painted them with ink so that you can see them. And then yes, anyway, so you can create the illusion of transparency even with fabric if you're patient enough to do that. Anyway, I thought it would be kind of fun. I'm going to stand back and look because I'm checking out my shape here and I'm seeing that it needs to be a little bit down further. Okay, step forward. Yeah. And this light is way too light, but that's all right. We'll just do that. There it goes. There we go. I think that's a better shape, don't you? And I can see that there's a little darkness right underneath here that comes out here. I'm just going to work on it slowly. Okay. Well, I'm happy with that bird so far. I'm thinking it's coming along quite well for just sort of getting the shapes in place. Get some of that dark right there. I can see extra dark there. Okay. So these little birds are really feisty. They are so territorial. They're fun, fun, fun. And they're very little. Like they're just teeny tiny little birds. They're not very big and they travel such a distance. I always marvel at how far these birds travel to come and have their next generation and have been doing it for however long they've been doing it. Hundreds of thousands of years or more. Oh, I'm sure, because it's been millions of years since birds have been around. So probably from the very beginning of their time. It wasn't long before they were doing that here. Though I'm not much for paleontology stuff and all that. I'm an artist, not... Okay. Okay. Just sort of bringing in the value here and sort of playing with it and reshaping this shape here. Because I can see that it needs to be... Take my white handled brush and just push that paint around. See, I can bring this down here too. I've got, you know, you get those shapes started and getting them correct, then you can come in and do all the final stuff. Here we are. We're going to do value 6 because I think that's the value I'm seeing. Now that I have something to compare it to, it's easier to work from. Here and narrower as we go down. Okay. You know, actually this feels like a good place to stop tonight. Yeah, I think I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to get everything, and I'm going to talk about my fox color study. I'm going to show you the two different ones. So I'm going to put this down. Okay. And then I'm going to bring another board up. Let's see if we can get this all organized here and think this through before I did this. And here's the first fox color study I did. Okay, so you can see what I'm intending to do. This shape here will be larger. I've drawn them. I've doubled the size because they just need to be a little bit more. There's going to be bush that comes around, but it's softened and blurred out of the background. So we have this. I wasn't really thrilled with this color study. So instead of painting on top of it, I found the background was not quite where I wanted it to go. It's still too gray, too dark of a value. And so I needed to lighten it up. And I remembered that I like to work with the burnt sienna background. It seems to make it easier when I'm doing a color study to be able to relate better when I've got the dark here. So this fox, I'm much happier with it. It's a darker. I use more of the darker colors, so I'm happy with how rich the colors are. I'm happier with the background. It feels like I've got the right value. You kind of see I played a little bit with that branch. It'll be much easier to do when they're bigger and it kind of does an arch across. And I kind of played with making it bigger just visually here, just to see what that would look like. And I'm really quite happy with where I'm going. So I've mixed all the colors for the background, not for the branches, just for the background. And I will do that whole thing first. It'll probably take me 6 layers to get it smooth and to where I want it to be, because I'll do thin layers to get there, kind of like watercolor. Anyway, so that's my next painting, and it's going to be quite massive. So you can just watch on social media as I share as I go along. But here's that color study done. And there's the other one, and you can see the difference in the foxes. Move this one this way here. You can see that this fox is a richer color and not quite as pale as that one is. And more fitting for what my image is like. Okay. Well, thank you for your patience yet again. Gosh. I made sure the mic was on, but I forgot to turn the mic on over there. Anyway, next week we will continue to work on, oh, where'd it go? Right here. We'll continue to work on the Ruby Crown Kinglet, and I will do some of the background, so I will get more of it more ready, and so we can work on it next week. And watch for next week, because I'm going to send out one of those questionnaire things again where you get to vote on what transparent thing I'm going to paint, because I think it's going to be about transparent things. So it could be dragonflies or glass or, I can't think, diamond. I have some diamond images. Just thought I would change it up and have a little holiday from the birds. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and thank you for your patience with no sound. I will go and edit that and make that sound come back, and I will see you next week with sound, I promise.